We are gathered here today in Woodland, California at John Newsom's home on November 29th, 2017 with Adriana Young, Gideon Rubel, Kate Sangster, and Ayana Shaw.
So to start this off, when and where were you born?
Benton County, Tennessee.
Can you tell us about your family and maybe some siblings?
I have two brothers. I was born there on August 16th, 1935. That makes me 82, going on 83.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
Farming.
Farming?
Mm-hmm.
In what branch of the military did you serve?
United States Marine Corps.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was 17 years old, and my mother had to sign for me. I couldn't just go enlist. She had, your parent has to sign for you.
If you enlisted, why did you choose that branch of service?
Wanted to be the best.
What happened when you departed for training camp and during...
What happened when?
What happened when you departed for your training camp and during your early days of training?
I just went down, got on a train, and away we went. 2 days and nights to get to San Diego. And I thought, Lord have mercy, I'll never get back to the house. After 2 days and nights on a train. So.
Do you recall your instructors? What were they like?
They're pretty rough. Drill instructors are always rough on you, tough.
How did you adapt to the military life?
I didn't have any problem. Being a farm boy, it was nothing that I couldn't do, you know, but some of the city boys had trouble. And but I didn't have any trouble.
If you want to talk about your wartime service, if you just want to go off of
wartime service?
Yeah.
Well, the war ended while I was over there, so nothing real dramatic happened to me. I had one incident one night that we better not talk about. If you're going to film it, we better not talk about it. But we had a big gun, a big 90mm gun with a barrel like that, and we had the guys all slept in the tent, 6 guys in the tent, and my job was to be on watch at night. And I was inside a bunker, which they pushed the dirt up on both sides, and then we put a top on it. And the back we'd made a big form, but we had a people door in the middle of it. It was 20 degrees below zero there sometime. And we didn't have any electricity, we had candles, and I was writing a letter home, and some dirt started falling down on my paper, and I thought there might be somebody outside. And what those guys will do, they'll sneak over at night, and the guys sleeping in the tent, they'll cut their throats. So I blew the candle out. It's dark, and I opened the door real slow. And the Koreans aren't very big, and I seen this old guy. I don't know what he was doing, but he shouldn't have been there. So whatever he was doing was no good. So I don't want to shoot him. I have this knife.
Oh yeah.
And you don't have to just slap him upside the head with that, and that's all you have to do. And I snuck up behind him and took that knife and popped him upside the head real hard. He went down, and just laid there. We were right on the Indian River, and from here to your car, there's a real steep, sheer bluff, and the water would come in and go out with the tide from the ocean. And I took him over to the cliff and put him over the edge. And they said there was, I heard some guys say that there was quicksand in there in the river along the edge. And I don't know if there was or not, but I couldn't wait until the next morning to go look and see if he was still there. When you do something like that, there's a lot of paperwork you have to do. And I went and looked, and he wasn't there. So what happened, I don't know. I know but it was either him or my friends in the tent. But war is hell sometimes. But that's the way the game's played. I've had this since 1952. One night we had a fire going, and I wrote my name and my serial number on I'd heat up a piece of metal, and it's not very creative, but a long time ago.
To this day, do you know it offhand? Do you know your serial number offhand? Or
the what?
Your serial number, do you know it offhand?
1306942. You never forget it. Yeah.
If you saw combat, how did you feel when witnessing casualties and destruction? Kind of what were your impressions?
I didn't see a lot of that. We were on that big gun, and we were back here. We weren't right up there where there were hand-to-hand combat. However, I got a scar right there from a bayonet. A friend of mine and I, we were fooling around, and put the bayonet on the end of your rifle, and you can put a cover on it. The dummy didn't have a cover on it. And this bayonet hooks right on the end of your rifle. You want to see how it's done?
Sure.
You don't have a case for your rifle. However, shut up. David, I'm busy. I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, I'll pick you up at 7.
Okay, buddy. David and I go have breakfast every Thursday morning. But this is there's no rounds in there. So,
keep that in really good condition.
I was gonna say.
yeah. But have you ever seen how these go together?
No.
There's a little latch in there. Goes down. I'm not going to latch it, but that's where it goes. It goes down, and then this goes around the barrel. And that's what it looks like. And that's where he got me fooling around. I thought you might like to see this.
Do you clean your gun often?
Hmm?
Do you clean it often?
I take care of it. I bought this case. I didn't have a case for it, but I wanted one. I seen Newsom, I got it.
Is that the one you were originally issued when you joined the Marines?
No. No, one just like that's an M1. Now they have others. Are you surprised that I'm so prepared for you?
This is fantastic.
This is great.
This is a carbine. This is
Oh wow.
this isn't as accurate as that one. But it's handy. It's easy to handle. Everybody wanted one, but we had to have those. These don't shoot us far. Whoops. I mess up the wall. She's gonna be after me. And that was, and sometimes we normally had sea rations, but sometimes you'd be in a place where they would cook. Damn house. Get out of there. I haven't had this stuff out for a long time. This you can give you a knife, fork, and spoon, and a little can opener to open your sea rations with. And
is this your original?
Was
this your original?
Yeah. Yeah, I had this for, I wouldn't part with it.
How many pounds of gear would you have to carry on any given day?
Probably 80.
Wow.
Yeah, all depends. And we won't go into this, but went in there and come out there. We won't discuss that though. I got a lot of junk. Where'd we leave off?
Where did you serve?
I went to boot camp in San Diego, California, and I went to Korea for a year.
What were your friendships like and while you were serving?
We were pretty tight. Yeah, when you're in a foreign country, however, there were incidents where we weren't as friendly among guys who get in fights and stuff like that. I used to fight just because that's where I learned to box, and I was on the boxing team, the Marine Corps boxing team for a while. And that's how I got started boxing. But in boot camp, they would, you have no liberty whatsoever. But one night they had fights on the base, and you don't go there as a fighter. The drill instructor or a gunny sergeant walked through the crowd and he said, "Hey lad, you and you, front and center. It's whether you know how to fight or not. And he don't know you, you don't know him, you don't know who you're gonna fight." So they'd have like 10 fights. You get 10 losers, you get 10 winners. So in the show, they put the 10 winners in the ring with boxing gloves on. Then two guys get in, they take these big red handkerchiefs and blindfold you. Then they ring the bell. And you get 10 guys in the ring all at one time. And you don't know if you're gonna hit somebody in the top of the head or in their butt, or you don't know who you're hitting. And this drill instructor, he comes up to me before they put the handkerchiefs around my eyes. He was my drill instructor, and drill instructor is God. And he told me, "Newsom, you better do well in this or you won't be able to, you'll never survive boot camp. That jug is about to fall off of there. Can you straighten it back up?" Thank you. And I didn't know what he meant by that, because he couldn't have done any more to me already. Like one morning, I'm 17 years old, I didn't have no whiskers, no beard. And we all fell out in rank. And then when you go in boot camp, they give you a 2.5 gallon bucket. And in the bucket is your toothpaste and your writing material, all your personal stuff, razor. He says, anyway, we're in rank, and he walks up and he rubs, Private Newsom, did you shave this morning? I said, no, sir, I don't have to shave every morning because all I have is a little peach fuzz. He says, in the Marine Corps, you will do things together. This man had to shave, this man had to shave, but you don't have to shave? Go get your bucket and your razor. So when I got in the blanket, so when I brought my bucket out, he puts the bucket over my head and put my blanket over me and the bucket. I took the razor and I went inside the bucket as I'm doing stationary double time, singing the Marine Corps hymn and dry shaving. That's some of the things but you will learn to do things together in the Marine Corps. Where'd we leave off?
Are there any special memories you have with your comrades?
Yeah.
Do you want to share any or?
That's one of them. Pretty long. I've written most of it in my stories there, but.
How do you stay in touch with your family back home? Did you
just write letters?
Letters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you often get them back, or
what?
Did you often get letters back?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
What'd you do for recreation off duty when you were not?
Well, you're on duty all the time, but when you're not training, you're going to be sleeping because they wear you out. We never had any liberty other than that boxing match. And one night they had something else. Maybe we could go to a movie. It's the only 2 times that I knew that we was going to have any liberty. And we fell out in rank, and the drill instructor says, "Who'd like to go to a movie tonight?" Everybody raised their hand. Well, who doesn't want to go to a movie? One man raised his hand. He says, "Everybody else wants to go to a movie, but Private Heath don't want to go to a movie. Why don't you want to go to a movie, Private Heath?" He said, "Well, I want to stay home and write some letters to my mommy and my girlfriend." He said, "Lord have mercy." He said, "Okay, gentlemen, there'll be no movie tonight. In the Marine Corps, you will learn to do things together." It was just right about sundown. Wasn't quite dark yet, so we all went and got our 2.5-gallon buckets, and we walked from, it was a paved sidewalk. Everything is paved except over here it's all sand. And we walked a half a mile over by the airport there in San Diego, in the softest sand I ever walked in. We walked way over by the fence. We filled our buckets with sand and started back over to where our Quonset hut was. It's hard enough to walk in that real soft sand, but if you got a 2.5-gallon bucket full of sand, that's pretty hard. And singing the Marine Corps hymn, we all marched back over there, and we dumped the sand out, made a pile, and went back and got another bucket. We did that until midnight. And then the drill instructor says, "Gentlemen, we don't want those folks over there. It's just nothing but sand, a sand field out there. But we don't want those folks thinking we're stealing their sand. We have to take it back." So we finally got the sand pile down to his liking by 5 o'clock in the morning. Worked all night long because Private Heath didn't want to go to a movie. And that's what they teach you. That's why the Marine Corps is what it is, because you will do things together. And so, what else? What else you got?
I read in one of your articles that you had a horse at some point.
We had a horse named Reckless. I was with a 75 millimeter gun. It's about near the wall, so big around. and you got to carry ammo. 2 guys carry the 75. One carries the tripod. The other guys carry the ammunition. Well, it's a long way up. There's a lot of hills in Korea, and this lieutenant thought it'd be a good idea to go back. He went back to Seoul to a racetrack that was all bombed out, and he bought this horse. And these rifles we had were called reckless 75 millimeter rifles. That's why we named her Reckless. And you see those canisters she got on her back?
Yes.
She would go by herself from the ammo dump up on line. The guys would take the ammo out. If somebody was wounded, they would put them on Reckless, and she'd bring them out. She did that all by herself a lot of times. And we went back to Quantico, Virginia, and erected a bronze statue of her. Then we just done one down at Camp Pendleton last year. We put 2 of them up. Yeah, she was a good horse. She died, and when the war was over, we shipped her back to Camp Pendleton, and she died there in 1968. A good horse.
Beautiful.
Did your horse receive any medals?
Hmm?
Did your horse receive any medals?
Oh yeah. She was a sergeant, and she got 2 Purple Hearts. Yeah, that was a big thing. They've written a book about her, and they're gonna make a movie. I forget the guy's name that's supposed to play my part. They told me, but he's kind of goofy. Maybe that's one day. Let me get a book here. You know that statue I showed you back there, that bronze statue?
Yes.
That's a picture of her there.
Oh wow.
And this is the book here. That goes on here, but I took it off because too many people was handling, and I thought they were gonna mutilate that.
Did you receive any injuries during
No.
your time? No.
I came back. The only holes in me was the ones that was intended. I never got shot.
Where were you when the war ended?
In Korea.
In Korea?
Yeah.
How did you return home?
On a ship called the USS Talladega. I went over on the General John Pope. The General John Pope was tied up over in Benicia. It was, you know where the ships are tied up?
Yeah.
And the lead paint started falling off a bunch of those boats, so they towed them to Texas and cut them up. So the General John, and I wanted to go aboard that ship too. I have a friend who lives over there, and he was going to try to arrange for us to go. I'd like to go on just one more time, but it didn't work out.
How were you received by your family and community when you came back?
Good. Not like the Vietnam boys. Yeah.
How did you readjust to civilian life after that? Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah, I didn't adjust well at first. It's just a different way of life, and I didn't like it. As a matter of fact, in that story there, if you want to, how far did you get? Second page?
Yes.
Third page?
To the bottom of the second page.
It just goes on to say that being on the farm, I knew how to do everything on the farm, into the Marine Corps, and I knew how to, but I didn't know how to adjust to city life. And you go someplace, you apply for a job, they give you an application, and it wouldn't look good to put down, I can plow, I can pick cotton, I can shuck corn, I can stab people with a bayonet, I can shoot people. There's no demand for that in Long Beach anyway at that time. So I was walking down the street. This is I'll tell you. I was walking down the street one day and I was hungry and I smelled something good. So I just kind of followed my nose. I going down Anaheim Street and turned left. The aroma. So I followed my nose, and in an alley there was an old brick building, looked like an old auto repair shop, and it was all painted up white. It was real clean, and I applied for a job and had a name out there, Marie Callender Pies. That's where they started. Have you ever heard of them? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're big now, and so I worked a night shift. My job was to put whipped cream on top of the pies. So now I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting a job in civilian life. But that didn't last long. After a month or so, I'd get within smelling distance of the place. I'd want to puke. I couldn't stand it. But that was my first job.
Did you have a hard time, like, with not only, like, getting a job, but maybe personally, like, had a really hard time coming back from your experience?
It's a whole nother life there and here. Yeah, I had trouble.
Have you remained in contact or reunited with your fellow veterans?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If so, who?
We used to have reunions, and then the old guys, they started dying off, and some of them couldn't travel, and they're sick, blind, crippled, or crazy, and so. But I'm still in contact with a lot of them on the computer.
Are you a member of any veterans organization?
The Marine Corps League, which we try to make the world a better place to live. Toys for Tots. Have you ever seen those? Yeah. They put barrels in banks and we give them away over at the fairgrounds.
What have you done since separating from the military?
What have I done?
Since separating, yeah.
Well, I made it after Marie Callender Pies. I started boxing and so on and so forth. And I'd done little things. I drove a truck for Mr. Shaw and for a while, and then we moved from L.A. We moved back up to Sacramento. I had 12 fights at the auditorium in Sacramento. I always liked it here, so I wanted to get back to it. And we got married. And knew the woman in 10 days. We got married. We've been together for 54 years now.
Wow.
Cheaper to keep her. Yeah. So then one day she told me that I was making a living boxing and working in a honky-tonk as a bouncer. And that was a pretty good deal at first, but we had all the surfers back in the old days. Remember the surfers, long blonde hair, and they were cool, and I'd check IDs at the door. And then one day, the owner of the place, he decided that he'd get away from the surfer music and go to country western. And them cowboys, when they come in, they get a few brews, they all want to fight. all that. And I'd go. I used to go over. I see a fight about to start. I'd go over and break it up. Well, then they both might turn on me. So after a while, I'd see a fight about to start. I'd just let them go ahead and fight. And when the fight's over, the one standing is too tired to fight anymore, and the one on the floor, I'd help him up. So it turned out to be a pretty good deal. But then one night I got into it with 4 of them, and this one, he threw a right hand, and all the weight was on one foot, and I hit him with the left hook, and he spun around and broke his leg. And then they were going to have a big lawsuit, and that's when we moved to Woodland, and I bought me a truck and started trucking. Worked for myself for 50-some years.
Was your family a big part of your adjustment, like coming back, or?
Not really. I didn't go back home. I stayed out here, but I stayed in contact with them.
Was it hard explaining what you went through when you were talking to your family?
Was it what?
Was it hard talking about your experiences?
I didn't talk to him about that.
How did your wartime experiences affect your life?
How did it affect my life? I think it bettered my life. The military did, not the wartime. But I came out of it all right. After we got married, I kind of settled down. I was raising hell up till then. I didn't miss much.
What are some life lessons you learned from the military service?
And the Marine Corps said, be all that you can be. You'll see that advertisement on TV. And do what you say and say what you do. There's other lessons I just can't think of them right now.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about the war and military in general, do you think?
A lot of those places, I don't think we should be over there. They don't seem to be doing any good. Fighting break out here, they ceasing to break out of that. They've been fighting over there for since the beginning. So I don't pay much attention to it, really.
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view or hear this interview?
No, what was the last part?
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view or hear this interview?
I didn't hear your last one. What did you say?
For anyone who hears this tape, what message would you like to leave them?
Oh. Hell, I don't know.
Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or should be adding to this interview?
No, you covered it pretty well.
What do the colors on your hat mean?
The what?
The stripes on your hat?
That's the ribbons that I'm entitled to. The Marine Corps, Korean, and there's 3 of them there. I know, but I can't think of it. But all Korean veterans have the same ones.